Hello, and welcome to the Bot Nirvana podcast, where we dive into all things digital automation. I'm your host, Nandan Mullakara. While I'm not podcasting, I help people keep up with the fast-changing digital technologies at botnirvana.org. I hope you enjoy the show. Let's get right into it. Today we have Kustaa Kivelä, the CEO of Workfellow. Workfellow is an AI-powered process intelligence solution designed for uninterrupted process analysis and operational excellence. In this chat, we talk about Kustaa's journey and the frustrations that led him to founding Workfellow. We also talk about the options available in the process intelligence space and the impact of generative AI. Let's listen in. Hi, Kustaa. Welcome to the Bot Nirvana podcast.
Hello, Anna. Thanks for having me. A pleasure to be in here and great fan of your podcast.
Great. Thank you. Can we start with a quick personal intro for our listeners?
Absolutely. Let's do it. So my name is Kustaa. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Workfellow. Long history in automation space, early employee in robotic process automation. And how I got there back in the days was that I was avid traveler, looking the world, looking mega trends of the world, and I spent years in China traveling there and working there, really interested about of how the economy and world is changing, where work gets done. And later on went to outsourcing and ICT services when I came back to Finland from China, and long career in ICT outsourcing in there. And then one day I met robotic process automation solution consultant job advertisement. And I was really amazed that what is this new thing, a new technology, what is available in the market. It was 2015 or 2016, very early days of the RPA. Nobody knew what this technology was about, and I started to educate myself about knowledge work, revolution, automation, and what RPA can solve. And based on my history, when I was working in China and then also in outsourcing and ICT services, I knew that this technology can solve plenty of those challenges which I faced on my daily life. And that is basically the way how I ended up to RPA businesses, and I have been since working in automation and analytics and AI field, and enjoyed every day since when I entered the business.
Okay, excellent. And 2015 is about the year even I started with RPA. And I remember we used to go and evangelize RPA because people had not heard about RPA. It's not the case right now, but so automation has come a long way. So how did you go about founding Workfellow? And can you tell us some history about Workfellow?
Yeah, so like I said, work with the RPA business a lot. We were doing consulting, and then we had, I think, one of the first cloud solutions to sell robot as a service in the Nordics. And what we did for the customer, we offer offering that you can basically outsource the work for us, and the robots are doing that one. And it's 1/3 of the price or half the price, a human would do that one. And the business was growing. I had the pleasure to work with many enterprises and helping them to really get business advantage from the robots, and of course educating the market as well. What is possible, but soon we faced those challenges. What I think many has been facing in their journey is that really understand how we can expand to other business units, how we can scale. And we had very big incentive when we were running this kind of as a service business factory, that finding new cases to automate was our really driving our business. But we failed to do so, going beyond this easy to pick, low-hanging fruits, as they say in consulting. And then we started to find a different kind of technologies and trying those out. And we tried process mining. There is a Finnish process mining company, and we were trying different kind of tools, those old ones and traditional approach. And the main problem what we had in there was that it really didn't tell so much about the actual work what the people were doing when they were in a part of the processes. And it was a really limited approach when you look one IT system, event logs, and visualize those. So we basically quit trying that out during those days. And then we went to this, I called it ancestors of task mining, these somebody went to Chrome and somebody went to SAP and somebody went to Chrome, and like you basically know a little bit time where time is going, but you don't know anything about the workflows or the process, what is happening there. And it didn't drive our business in that sense to like find automatable things and not get coverage of the process mining and on and intelligence. And then me and Henry, my co-founder, we discussed a lot, like all the time, like how to make it possible. And I said, like, you have to find solution for it. You have to find solution. And then Henry one day came that like, hey, I have tried everything. There is no solution like what you want and what could drive our business. Then we lived with the problem for a long time. So it was many years like we tested, tried, and failed to like get that kind of visibility what we would like to have. And then when COVID hit, like a world changes in one day. So we went to like a drawing board with Henry and like now we are building that software which we want. And after that, we have been building Workfellow together, and amazing journey, super much fun building solutions and get this kind of like a solution for our customers. So that was the story how we ended up to like a founding Workfellow.
Great. Yeah. And, even going back to my journey, process complexity has been one of the biggest problems we faced. We used to go to our internal customers and understand the process and come back, and it would be our business analysts who would do that. And then when we build it out and go back, then is when we would realize that, the process was not complete, and we need to go back. And yeah, we were looking at various solutions like an internal process mining solution and things like that. So yeah, I mean, there is that gap, right? So how does Workfellow differentiate? Now we've come a long way in process mining and task mining. Many people in this field now, and so how does Workfellow differentiate in this area?
Yeah, so we have like three things. One is the end-to-end process understanding and fast way to get it. So we focus on mapping end-to-end processes, choosing UI. So when we were like studying this and we were in drawing board, we understood that we have to understand how the process goes from the UI perspective. So like if there's every people and computers connected to full process, then we have to understand how to connect that information, gathering the process data from the graphical user interfaces. And we built this kind of like object-centric model, like to follow the process end to end. And that we have been building. So we have the capabilities of mapping like work-intensive end-to-end processes, but also see the granular level details. When we go through front end, we understand like on transactional level if somebody is changing information in some field inside the system. So that is basically end-to-end granular understanding. And second is like fast to implement. So we really have been focusing on that our model is really actually easy and fast to implement, and companies can do it self-serve. So they don't need like massive training periods or like time from consultants to set it up. And they can be then self-sufficient when IT involvement is minimized, so they can really like scale the use inside the corporations. And one, of course, like we're a European-based company. I'm from Helsinki, Finland. So for Europe, privacy, GDPR, employee monitoring, those kind of aspects, like we designed from the start that we can sell for European market. And we have been putting really much focus on how we can like get data, analyze the data, collect that in that kind of fashion that we are not processing personal or sensitive data. And that way, like those companies can safely buy from us our software. So those fast value end-to-end process in granular level, and then the privacy aspect is big in our platform.
Oh yeah, no, privacy has been one big problem, especially in Europe, right? I mean, how do you ensure that you are not capturing the personal data of people and even application that they're going to that with what they don't want to be captured? It's been coming to US too, so I think that's a good differentiator, as well as the ability to do it quickly. I think that's a big differentiator, because when we started with process mining, one of the big problems we had was finding data, especially in ERP, and getting the data so that we can decipher the process. And even when we deciphered the process, it was not the complete process. It was looking more at the backend data. So So yeah, I mean, I like what the process intelligence companies are doing, and I think it's very interesting. So have you come across any interesting use cases where this one stands out for you when you compare to your RPA career, where you have thought, oh my God, I
Yeah,
would really love to have this technology
yeah.
at that time?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like like a data accesses to the event logs, and those are like big limitation. I was working in the outsourcing business, so we were using customer systems, so we didn't even have access to the event logs at some point. And I think like similar problem like what we are seeing in the market right now is that there is this banking, finance, insurance companies which have like a very customized systems for underwriting, claim management, and those. And they are doing lots of this kind of like a different activities, tasks in other systems. And the main challenge there is where we see our like a software to fit very well is that in those kind of systems which are very customized or there is no access to data. One example, like we have been doing global insurance company, and their biggest challenge, they haven't never seen their end-to-end process. So like never, they have been trying all kind of like approaches and techniques and technologies, and it's very enlightening. Like when you see your customer first time seeing like, oh, this is how it goes, the end-to-end process, and in very granular level and high level, and they can understand the dependencies, and they can understand that how they can actually make the impact and efforts like when they are like implementing solutions in their processes. So that is basically those kind of use cases. If you want to do any kind of like automations, integrations, or thinking about what is actually driving your process further, those kind of industries, there we are like a very good use cases for us to like get in fast.
Okay. Oh, great. So, and now as we step into the generative AI phase, and there's a lot of excitement about generative AI, and many of these people I see from the AI field now coming in and saying that, yeah, we need to go about this process. And I look at it and it's similar process that we were following with RPA. It's like find
Yeah.
the use cases, put in your methodologies and implement it, productionize it, test it. And so it's kind of following the similar process. They seem to be like reinventing the wheel. But one of the technologies I see very useful across is the task of process intelligence, right? Because we understanding the processes, and now you can automate it with RPA or with AI or with AI and RPA in whatever combination you can, right? So how are you seeing that progress? How are you seeing generative AI impact process intelligence?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think like when this kind of like open AI came with the models, I think everybody has been thinking about how to leverage those at the scale and in their product and development. And we are using that in many different fronts. Like of course, like helping the software development code pilots in those, lifting the productivity of our own people from coding to the marketing side. So basically, the whole company is using those technologies. Regarding what comes to process intelligence, we are focusing on getting value faster for our customers. So one thing what we do is basically we use those kind of techniques to do ready templates to different systems using that methodology. So it's easier for our customers to get started because they have ready templates for their systems, and we are using that. I'm a strong believer that like a configuration automation with this kind of technologies will be a very big impactful automation like field in the future. Other one is that of course we try to like build now in a pilot phase like solutions to help the business users to get the data and use that data more wisely. So when we have big process analysts, they know what they're doing. They know like how to read the charts and dependencies and understand the processes. And then they have to interpret that data anyway for top management or management layer. And when we think about process transformation, you need people in all the layers, team leaders, then the like IT key users and those. So I think there we have like a very good spot to make that more understandable, and people can ask the questions in their own language and the machine can interpret the answers. So it's giving faster value for the business user. Of course, now what we see a big demand is that question is like where in our process, where in our function we could leverage these kind of technologies. So what we have been doing is that one of the insights of our platform is, of course, that we can pinpoint those kind of places where people have to do repetitive communication, building supplier materials, feeding the data inside the systems, and pinpoint those. So those technologies can be utilized there. When similar like with the robotics back in the days, that like it's really hard to find the place, ask people, and now we try to make it that this time, like like where you could use those like immediately by data-driven insights.
Okay. And I think what you all are doing, especially the process intelligence players, you are capturing the data of work that people are doing, especially at their computers. But because we do a lot of work on computers, you're capturing the data of work. Now that you have the data about work, you can actually have a chatbot like ChatGPT, which you can ask questions about work, right? Like how much does Susie in finance take to do the month-end close, for example? I'm giving a very broad example, right? So you have a capability to give great insights directly from that data. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. Like that is basically like how the business would be leveraging that in the future. And I'm like strongly believing that we have like a different kind of like a UI what we are using when we communicate with the business applications and software in the future. So it's not anymore like we are building the UI, but like we are connecting the data with the UI. So the chatbot being, for example, one UI, like what is more easier for people to use. So that's why it's very like exciting topics and exciting things what we are building, and hopefully we can share something like before Christmas this year, like what we're launching in that front.
Excellent. I also see a lot of executives even having some voice assistants, where they can ask this and get this information. So what excites you as you see for the next 3 years as a CEO of Workfellow? What excites you? What roadmap would you ideally take for Workfellow in the next 3 years?
So yeah, I think like every time I'm waking in the morning, like what excites me is to see my customer faces when we go to first data review. So when they see their first time their processes end to end, and then we can immediately answer those questions what they're asking about like their operations, that like how I can do this and what this means, and we can go to that dialogue how to improve the business. And that is basically what I would like to see every morning when I'm waking up with the customers, to have those like a data review calls. Like even though my calendar is super busy, so I would want to participate every first data review and process review what we have with the customers after the deployment, because that's basically like I want to keep the customers happy and see their faces and get the energy to work further and push our product to like unleash more value. What we're focusing right now is that we want to see those happy faces of our customers at scale. So we are like really in the mission to like democratize this kind of process intelligence for more people. So what that means that we are building this kind of like a marketplace of ready integrations and templates to get the process data from systems, and that we are launching in a couple of weeks. And that is basically what we are working towards, to like faster get value in, even though your systems would be customized and IT landscape hard, we can give like value for you faster. And the other thing is to, of course, focusing on the business value, so like how much value we can get from the data. I think we have been like just taking small surface how we can utilize that kind of data what you can nowadays get from the UI and build. And later, I think there is coming that we are, of course, working towards that, like we can help to automate more. So like as in that kind of fashion, that like when we pinpoint and we get the real-time working data, real-time process data in real time, so we can help to trigger those automation workflows and go to that direction in the future. Then that we can like support automations on the process side, but also augment the people, like helping the people to actually like put the context and help them to improve in their work when we know like what really happens in that specific moment in the real time. So those are basically where we are building our platform towards.
Excellent. So you did mention a marketplace. So what does that marketplace contain? Are you able to share more?
Yeah, so we are launching in a couple of weeks. So the idea in there is that like when we are using this kind of like a new Gen AI techniques to basically what we do is we train our software to learn different kind of business systems. So let's imagine there is like a underwriting work system where underwriting case handling is done, and it might be as customized as basically possible, but it's public in the loan system itself, but for niche use cases. So what we do now at scale, we're like looking through those systems where our solution can be configured automatically. So in the marketplace, basically it's a ready integrations for graphical user interfaces of the business application. So if you want to follow your process in some system, you can basically plug and play that into production, and that we are like now building.
That's interesting. So yeah, I look forward to that in 2 weeks. Let's see. That'll be amazing. So for people who want to get started with Workflow, what do you suggest is the best way to get started?
Very good question. So we meet people who are like in very different phases of their process journey. So there is people who are just exploring and trying to figure it out how to get started. Then there is people who are veterans and they have been trying to solve like their use cases with all kind of like technologies. And we are very transparent and honest about like where we add value and where we don't add value. So whatever is like your situation and those, just reach out, have a discussion with, let's see like how we can help and how we can like support your journey. We help like with many kind of questions. We've often discussed about like that I understand the value, how I can communicate and make that kind of proof for my management or bosses that like really this is something which we would need to do and get the data-driven insights to transform our operations. Or it might be that we're talking about super gritty details about the technologies and those, and we are excited to take both kind of like discussions with anybody who wants to discuss, and like process experts and consultants, we are happy to discuss with everybody, experts in the field. So reach out.
All right. Yeah. So reach out to Workfellow. Is that what you're saying? So should I leave a link to your website and they can contact Workfellow?
It's my personal, like you can reach out in LinkedIn. So I'm happy to connect with everybody in the field and everybody who wants to discuss. Kustaa Kivelä is in LinkedIn under Workfellow. You can find it. And my contact details, like emails and phone numbers, are in our website. So workfellow.com or .ai, you can find my contacts there and reach out like if you want to discuss further.
Okay. So how is your process? So when people reach out to you, do you do an initial understanding of what they're doing, and do you do a proof of concept? How do you proceed with that?
Typically, like when we start, we have like a discussion about the objectives and what is the state and what we want to achieve in what kind of time frame. And then we think about what is the best way to move forward with that one. Of course, there is like we have to proof of technologies with those experts who are further down the road that like show that capabilities of our platform. Then we do proof of values for like those who wants to justify the business cases, or proof of concept for those who think about like what is the best process intelligence solution for me to start, because there is like plenty of offering in that sense that there is process mining, traditional ones, there is task mining, then there is these kind of vendors who combine hybrid model, those data collections. So like we are selecting the best model like for a customer, like how they feel that they want to proceed and like together with us.
Okay. And I just had one question on terms of your technology. So
yep.
In terms of how you process the data, is the data processed locally, or do you take it to your cloud servers, process it, and give them the analysis?
Very good question. So how we work is that we minimize and justify the data what we collect. So when we collect object data from the UI, we first like define what needs to be collected to create those event logs, and which we use for process mining and task mining algorithms at the same time. So the idea in there is that like not taking all the data what is available, because typically it's sensitive and private data there. So like selecting what data we want to collect, and then we basically collect that data only and process that in our cloud platform. And one thing which we are working towards right now is that like early next year we would have like a community edition and also like an offline version, like for those who want to get like I said, like we want to get like people started very easily. So like having that kind of version which they can use safely on their like own environment without like using our cloud.
That's an interesting thing you mentioned there, a community edition. How do you make that possible in the sense that does your software need to, let me ask in a different way. Does your software need to run on multiple computers? Supposing you have a community edition, how does people install it on their computers?
Yeah, so like I said, like that we are probably launching early next year, but like it's running on the multiple computers, of course. Okay. So what we do typically, like our deployments are, like from tens to hundreds of computers, depending on how big the process, to thousands, like basically computers connected to our processes, and that we run on the cloud. But like then we have like those kind of like on-premise offline versions coming, which are like a little bit for less amounts in that sense at the first stage.
Okay, excellent. And so if people need to get started right now, even before the community edition is coming out, they reach out to you on your website or to you on LinkedIn personally, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like everything works.
Okay. And so I'll leave a link to your LinkedIn so that people can find and contact you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Kustaa, thank you for being on the podcast today. This was a great chat. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Like it was a pleasure, and keep up the good work like for automation community. Thank you.
Thank you for joining the Bot Nirvana podcast. Appreciate if you can leave a review on iTunes or wherever you're consuming your podcast. Catch the show notes on botnirvana.org. While you are there, feel free to explore more free digital automation resources and more. See you next time.